Hello, everyone. First and foremost, I want to say happy Maternal Mental Health Day. For those of you that weren't aware of this holiday, May 6th is recognized as World Maternal Mental Health Day, and we couldn't be more thankful for this day. In America, we also have Mother's Day coming up this Sunday. So we got a double whammy of maternal support going on in this block of time. So we really wanted to take this opportunity to talk to the moms out there about maternal mental health, about the struggles of being a mom, being a parent, the stigmas that are on us, the pressures for us to be infallible and perfect, and share some of our stories as moms who have our own struggles to deal with, and give some tips as well on how we deal with it, and what you can do to give yourself the break and the recovery time that you deserve to not only improve your mental health, but improve your relationship and your mental health for the sake of your children as well. So very, very excited to have two of our mental health advocates here to share their stories, as well as many of our other advocates in our audience as well. So first, let me introduce myself real quick. I'm Samantha Foster. I'm the founder and president of Rethink Mental Health Incorporated. If you're not familiar with our organization, our mission is to improve the way society views and treats mental health. And we do so through education, advocacy, and creativity initiatives that span from a mental health curriculum for adolescents that helps support emotional resilience for teenagers and again, young adolescents, to workshops like this, where we spread awareness and inspiration through advocates, to our creative initiatives, including our Feel the Music podcast, which explores mental health themes through music, as well as our upcoming benefit concert at the end of this year on December 4th in Las Vegas. So we do so many different things, and we're so excited to be able to hone in on various mental health subjects, maternal mental health being, of course, one of those that we find to be very important to bring awareness to and also support to.
Be careful, no table.
So with that said, I'd like to introduce our first speaker for today's webinar, and that is Natasha. I'll let her introduce herself and kind of more of her background and what she does, and share some more of her journey as a mom and her mental health, and some tips as well for you to take away. So Natasha.
Yes, well, thank you for that intro, Samantha. As she stated, I am Natasha. I have been an advocate with Rethink for about a year now. And what brought me to Rethink is just my own journey as a first-time mom. I had a lot of changes take place. In addition to, getting pregnant, my husband and I also had a discussion in regards to me leaving the workforce to become a stay-at-home mom for a little bit. So we decided to do that, and it was just a lot. I didn't realize at the time, how much these changes would affect me, once I gave birth, and you go through the whole experiencing the baby blues at first. They tell you about that. We got a chance to work with an amazing doula who was, she was schooling us on all these things. But then she spoke about like postpartum depression. And right away, like she was telling my husband and I about that, and I kind of dismissed what she was saying. I was like, well, I'm not going to get postpartum depression. I don't have to worry about that. But lo and behold, like after I gave birth, I was experiencing postpartum depression, but I was in denial in regards to this. I actually was in denial for like the first 4 months, believe it or not. I kept it from my husband, even though he was really good at checking in with me, asking me, was I okay? But I will admit, I have a lot of pride. I've always had to be just this really strong person. So I got used to saying, I'll figure this out. I'll get through this. I didn't want people to feel sorry for me, or I never wanted to be the Debbie Downer, as they would say. And I was able to just fake it for a while until everything just kind of everything hit the wall. I was experiencing really bad mood swings. My husband was on the catching end of all of these mood swings. I would have crying spells. And I always been someone who dealt with anxiety, but very mild, it was manageable. But after pregnancy, I noticed it just became a lot more severe. So I was having anxiety attacks out of nowhere, and I couldn't understand why all of this was happening, because I was like, okay, I should be really happy where we just had this beautiful baby. He's healthy. I have a great husband. I really don't have any reason to be sad. So why am I so sad? But yeah, I just one day I just had this really, really severe breakdown where I locked myself in our bathroom and I just laid on the bathroom floor crying for hours. And it was at in this moment that I realized that something has to be done. Something is not right and it's getting worse. And at that moment, I wrote an email to my husband explaining everything that I was feeling. And I think I'm dealing with postpartum depression, but I'm not sure. And he suggested that we reach out to our doula first. So I reached out to her and I explained everything. And then she introduced me to a counselor that she knew. And so I went ahead and made my first appointment, and I was actually excited to go to therapy because I really wanted to just be able to talk about what I was feeling. I felt like I didn't really have outside of my husband, but even still, I wasn't too comfortable just yet because I never wanted to be the one, as I was saying, that feels that's complaining about things. But when I went to my first therapy session, and here I am, I'm in therapy, and I'm there just thinking I'm going to just address, my postpartum depression, but it ended up turning into just a lot of trauma that I was repressing that stemmed all the way back to my childhood. Because one thought that I had to myself that I wasn't telling anybody while I was pregnant was I was thinking about just my childhood, and it wasn't a really good childhood. Both of my parents struggled with alcohol and drug addiction, so we were raised with my grandmother, and it just wasn't always great. I was the eldest girl, and it was 6 children total, so I had a lot of responsibility at a very young age, and I was just the whole time I was pregnant, I would just have these moments where I started thinking about, well, what kind of mom do I want to be? I know I don't want to be the kind of mom that I had. I want to be a better mom. Like I was just dealing with all of these things, like don't fail as a mom. Do not fail your child. So it was like I was started to address all of these things while I was in therapy, on top of the postpartum depression, and then two, addressing, this lifestyle change. I went from working in corporate America for like 14 years to now I'm a stay-at-home mom. My child and I are solely dependent on my husband and his income. And I was also thinking about, oh, I hope he doesn't get stressed out, because you hear the stories about how that can put stress on the marriage. Here we are, we have a new baby. Now we're down to one income. So I was like dealing with all of these things that I was not sharing with people, but I was able to get it all out in therapy. And as I was going to therapy, that got me confident enough to go home and talk about things with my husband that I had been keeping to myself for so long. And also, it opened up my eyes to breaking a lot of generational curses that I didn't realize were still present and toxic, and that was keeping me like bound. So I learned all this, and it helped me to cut a lot of ties, because I said, if I wanted to be a good, mentally sound, healthy mom and present wife, a lot of toxic ties have to be cut. So that is what therapy helped me realize. Because you hear stories about people go to therapy and they're like, oh, it made situations great. Relationships with my parents are better and friends. But with me, it was like, you know what? They got to go. Because if they don't go and I keep them around, that energy is going to transfer on to my child and to my marriage. So I just want to say, like, if you're out there and you're struggling with postpartum depression, anxiety, or you had a traumatic childhood and you never spoke about it, or like me, for instance, being a Black woman in the Black community, therapy and counseling is like frowned upon. You don't go and tell someone your business, you just deal with it. That is very unhealthy. Talk to somebody. A counselor is the most unbiased person that you can speak to, because they have no stake in whatever happened to you or what you're going through. And for me, I would definitely say, had I known how healing it would be for me, I would have went long time ago. But it took becoming a mother to really put the battery in my back to say, I need to address these things. So that's my story there in regards to therapy. And I also want to talk about managing, family work-life balance. You know, I'm a stay-at-home mom, that's first. And after leaving corporate America, I switched careers, finally using my bachelor's degree, doing what I love, which is writing, the professional communications. So I freelance from time to time from home. And at first it was a struggle just trying to find that balance. We have a 2-year-old toddler, so all the parents out there of toddlers, and even if they're grown up, you just know how challenging that could be, how much attention and time they need. And so it just boiled down to, how can I manage being a present mom, wife, and a businesswoman, and I had to really sit down, and I work with a calendar, making priorities, so it revolved around fitting in time for myself too, just to keep my mental peace. So like for me, I like to exercise. Like exercise helps alleviate stress. Exercise helps to promote serotonin, which is the happy chemical in your brain. So I take time 3 to 4 times a week, and what we do is we're members at our local YMCA, and they have child watch there. So it's really good. I can drop off my little one and then go and have some me time working out with my music and just zone out. So that's one of the ways that I create some me time. Another way is I like to stay up a little bit later than everybody else. When my husband and son are going down for bed, I have me a glass of wine, and I have my shows that I like to tune in with myself, by myself. So it's like, I love you, hubby. I love our son, but this is my time. So good night. That is also a way for me to like just stay sane, being, a stay-at-home mom. And also CBD, if you are not aware of it, or maybe you heard a little bit about it, it definitely helps to calm and relax. For those of you who may struggle with anxiety like I do, CBD is a very organic way. It does not get you high like THC, like some people may think. So you get the benefits of that without getting high. You get the relaxation and the calm and the focus. So that's really like what really, really helps me in just being sane and keeping my mental health good. And meditation and reading are also some of the great ways that I like to, have my self-care and stay connected to my own passion. So as I mentioned before too, I'm a writer, and you can check out my blogs on natashawrites.info. A lot of my work focuses around parenting for like the millennial mother, lifestyle, mental health awareness. And so I like to definitely blog and write pieces in regards to that. So you can definitely check it out. And you can follow me on social media at Natasha Nafrini, and it's NATASHANA, F as in Frank, RINI. That's on Instagram and Twitter. And once again, my website is natashawrites.info. I don't know if I went over time because I can talk a lot.
No, you're perfect. And we have plenty of time to fill as much time as we want. But first and foremost, just thank you so much for sharing so candidly. And I know personally, I relate to so much of your story, and just that pressure to have it all, that we have these just societal pressure and just, I think, inherent pressure as a mom or as a parent, that we're just supposed to be able to handle everything. And we're not supposed to show our weakness or admit that we're struggling, because that makes us a bad mom. And it couldn't be further than the truth. The reality is we could arguably become a bad mom if we neglect to actually acknowledge that we're overwhelmed and therefore take care of ourselves, whether that be seeking therapy, balancing our life better, making that calendar and making sure we add that me time. And that means, again, me time without the husband, without friends. Sometimes it's tough to be alone, but if you practice that, it is so beautiful. So I totally relate. And in my personal story as well, one of the things that I've had to do as well in becoming a mom was cut my family out. And my mom in particular, completely cut her out of my life. And it was very scary and very daunting to do at first. And in a lot of ways, in hindsight, I should have done it years and years and years and years prior to that. But at least when I was starting my family and I realized how toxic she was and how much she dragged me down, I had to really reflect and say, do I want to be this person as a parent? I'm going to have to be responsible for these kids. If my mental health is constantly being drained by these toxic people,
Yes.
that's going to impact my ability to be mentally strong for them.
Right.
And I do believe that it's okay to also be vulnerable in front of your kids, that tough things happen. I mean, my kids are really little still, but still, I cry in front of them. I want them to know that I'm human, I'm infallible. That's another thing that my parents didn't do. They acted perfect. They acted like, well, we're grown up, so we know better. You're a small child, you're the weak one. And it made me feel very inferior and insecure. And the reality is they're just as messed up as I am, arguably worse.
Like I used to get, because I am an emotional person, but I used to get like, why are you crying? What's wrong with you? Like, it was wrong to like be emotional, you know, like, so my family, like, nobody really shows love. You never heard that I love you, or how was your day, like just those little things. So it's like, hopefully I don't do that. I don't overly do that to compensate for what I didn't have, but I make sure I do that. Even like I said, our little one is 2, but he just now started telling me and my hubby that, you know, I love you guys. I missed you guys today. Just little things like that. It's like, I want to teach that it's okay to be in tune with their emotions, especially with him being a little boy. Growing up, even as a guy, you are not allowed to cry, to be fearful. And what I've seen with that is a lot of guys, when they're taught that, it then comes out as they become angry, but it's something, it turns into being toxic, because you didn't allow this child to emotionally express themselves. I was not going to have that with my son, because I knew how detrimental that could be for a little child.
Oh, and absolutely agreed. I have 2 little boys as well, as we know each other, so it's like not news, but news for everybody watching. And I do find it to be, I think, regardless if you raise a girl or a boy, there's a certain stigmas in society for both that I think definitely, as parents and in our new role as trying to improve our kids' generation, is to really address that. I think boys, again, being in tune with their feelings and not having to, you know, tough it out to be masculine or be attractive to other people, but know that actually being sensitive and being able to cope with your emotions makes you a stronger person. Just again, like being a mom. And I think for girls, if I had a girl, my biggest thing would be just body confidence and just empowerment, because so many girls grow up without that encouragement that you're so strong. And I don't have a girl, but if I did, I would love the opportunity to instill that confidence, that girls have the same abilities as anybody else. And I think as moms, we embody that. I mean, come on, why aren't we always talking about how like humans just make babies? We just grow them forever. That takes so much physical, mental, hormonal, and it's just a norm, and it's not acknowledged as such an incredible experience.
Like, it's just expected. You're a woman. You're expected to have children. Like for me, like when I became a stay-at-home mom, I gained so much respect, more respect for mothers, and definitely for stay-at-home moms. Because when I was out in the workforce and you hear that someone's a stay-at-home mom, you literally, I think about Married with Children, Peggy Bundy. Like, she's at home watching Oprah all day. Like, she has it easy, you know. And then I became a stay-at-home mom, and this is a job. Like, work, but it is work. Like, I was not able to just sit on the couch and watch my favorite shows all day and just relax. Like, I would be, by the time my husband got home, I would be exhausted. You know?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's really there's a great even like social media post I saw, I think years ago at this point, but it was like, here's like this is the job description, like, would you take it? And it's like, you work 24/7, you don't get any bathroom breaks, lunch breaks, none of that. You have like no privacy. You're constantly needed, like, you need to deal with human excrement, like whatever, like all of the things that you do as a mom. And if you looked at that in a job description, no one would sign up. Oh, and by the way, you don't get paid for this. And if you just looked at it objectively and you forgot that we just, I guess, are, you know, programmed to kind of think that's normal and we just do it. But if you just look at that as an actual job description, you're like, no,
Exactly.
I don't want it.
Yeah.
But we are, empowered to do this because we do love these little creatures we make.
Yeah.
And we do want what's best with them. And we have an important role to play to help improve their lives and take the lessons we've learned in ours and try not to repeat negative experiences.
Yes.
With that said, I also want to give Lacey a wonderful chance to share her story as well, and some just viewpoints from you as a mom as well. So Lacey, please share more with us, and please introduce yourself as well.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name's Lacey, and I'm an advocate with Rethink, which is an awesome organization I'm so happy to be a part of. So I grew up, I was born in 76, so that tells you how old I am. But I always knew at the time I didn't know what it was. It's just like super sensitive. I was upset a lot. And in the 80s and 90s, mental health was not talked about. It was not, it was definitely stigmatized. And, I didn't know, the way I put it is I suffered in silence. And as I got older, and was able to open up more, I went through a couple really hard experiences in my late teens, and I, excuse me, joined like a group therapy. It was my first experience. And that was when I went to college, and I was on a big campus and going through a lot. And that really changed my life. Somebody invited me to go to a group therapy session, and just being able to talk about things, which I never really been able to do. So I knew then that I wanted to do something. So I can definitely relate with the full-time mom thing. So my husband, we've been married 23 years now. And, basically our whole marriage has been about his career, where we are. And it's, so our family lives out of state. So everything, he traveled a lot early on in his career. So everything was on me 24/7 with the kids. My kids are now, I have a son that's 22, my daughter's 17. And, he was gone a lot. And it was just the pressure and the stress and trying to learn how to cope with that without a lot of outside support. And definitely, like I said, our family lived out of town. And so everything was on me, every event, every doctor appointment, every, just everything was. And in the community here with, being a stay-at-home mom, everybody is, has to put on the perfect face and, oh, I'm just so, my family's perfect. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't live up to this. I can't, and it's exhausting. And at the time I just thought, oh, I just have to, oh yeah, that's great, and then smile my way through, because that's what everybody else is doing. And I joined a mom's group, and that was good because some people would talk about things, but other people would still put on the, oh wow, I don't, my family's this or my family's that. And I'm like, oh, so when you're already dealing with mental health issues, and then you have the extra stress of trying to be the perfect parent and comparing yourself all the time to others and how are their kids, your kids, and just the constant, it's a lot. And I've always been very open with my kids about mental health, especially as teenagers. I said it's okay to talk about things, it's okay, and it just because I want them to know it's okay. And especially these days with social media and everything else, it can be a blessing and a curse, both ways with social media. But yeah, I now kind of looking back, then I'm out. Well, now, so my youngest is going to be graduating high school next year. And now I'm kind of at the place. So in the meantime, I actually went on, while I was a full-time mom, to get my bachelor's in psychology. And so now, she's getting ready to leave, and I've worked, a little here or there, but now I'm going, oh my gosh, the last, 18 years I've dedicated to being a mom, and I loved it. But now I'm like, oh, my husband has a career and it's great and whatever. But now I'm sitting here going, what am I going to do? I haven't worked in a long time. And so that's a challenge too, to feel like, oh, I don't know, what's happening now. Because my kids, I think, were my whole identity, which can be a slippery slope of, well, I'm their mom. That's, I'm Robert and Taylor's mom. That's what I'm known as, and I always put my health and happiness on the back burner. That's just, a lot of times as a mom, that's what you do because you're so focused on the kids and making sure they're okay and taking care of them. And I always put my, health last. And so that's been a challenge too, and I feel very strongly about mental health education and just people opening up to each other. Because I feel if more people would have opened up when, I was in this stage when my kids were younger, I think it would have benefited me, because I know not everybody's life is perfect. As much as people want to, I feel like if people just opened up more and said, hey, I'm having a hard time, and this is going on and I have a lot of pressure, but it's very rare to see, or it was. I think definitely now people are a lot more open about it, but yeah, I love being a mom. It's awesome, but it can also it's tough. And like you were saying, being a stay-at-home mom, a friend of mine, she went back to work as soon as she could. She's like, I don't know how you do it, but then on the flip side, I also have people like, oh, well, what do you do all day? What are, and, or another thing that I really is tough is when people, especially with mental health, is when people are like looking from the outside, what do you have to complain about? What do you have to be stressed about? And that's definitely not fair. And the judgment, it can be tough, especially as a mom, and I wish people were less judgmental and more supportive of each other. So that's me.
That is so, thank you for sharing so candidly, because it's just so true. The pressures on moms, and even from other moms, we do it to ourselves.
Right.
Same boat, guys. But the pressures to have it all put together, to just smile and take it with ease, to not be worn down, and God forbid have balance in our lives, and even sustain a sense of our own personal identity outside of being a parent. That's such a hard balance, not only because it's physically challenging to make the time to still spend time for yourself, still pursue whatever interests you may have outside of being a mom, but also I feel anyways guilt whenever I try and take that time for myself. I feel a huge amount of guilt that I must be a bad mom. I can't do this. This is selfish. And I'm a second time mom now. I have an 8-month-old and a almost 4-year-old. And you think I would have learned all these lessons the first time around, but I did not. And that's been one of those learning curves that also is very humbling. And I want to share, because even if you finally got through it the first time around, the second time around, it's a whole nother kid. It's a whole new environment. And it's easy to slip back up again and forget to take care of yourself, prioritize yourself. And I am a stay-at-home mom, but also I also work at home. And I'm a workaholic. So I just cannot make time for myself. I have to schedule time in advance, like weeks in advance. And even then, like next week, I have a huge plot of time blocked off because I'm literally going out of town, and I'm still stressed and I want to plug things and I want to schedule calls. I'm like, I can make it work. I could just, call them from the airport. And I'm like, stop. And it honestly, it paid a huge toll on me somewhat recently in January. I guess my baby would have been, about 6 months old, and had still to this day doesn't sleep through the night. So I haven't gotten a full night's sleep in 2 years because I didn't sleep through the night during pregnancy. And I was continuing to be a workaholic, juggling everything, 2 kids, toddler in full on teenager stage, and an infant. And wasn't taking any time for myself, even though my husband is fantastic and will step in anytime I ask. But again, I was too proud and again, like wanted to just convince myself that I was fine until I was definitely not fine. And I broke down and I hit like a wall, and I just went to my husband. I said, I'm leaving. I have to go.
Yep.
It's gotten to the point where I need to leave. And thankfully, like, it wasn't a huge deal. I like to be dramatic and say I ran away, but I did like tell him. But for all intents and purposes, I left the state. I mean, I'm on the border with Arizona, but I like had to remove myself entirely from my city, check into a hotel by myself, get my own night's sleep. And I felt guilty about 50% of the time. And the other percent of the time, I felt amazing.
Yes.
If I can add really quick, because I was going to say, I read this article about this other mom. She said she takes a weekend a year, one weekend to her. She checks into a hotel by herself, and it's made her a better mom and better wife. And so I remember I brought this up to my husband. I said, hey, look what this mom is doing. And I was like, I'm going to do that. I recently did that. Like, I literally got a hotel room. I was like, I'm going to eat this. I'm going to stay up watching shows, have my wine. And I was guilty half the time, but then half the time, this is so awesome.
Yes.
I remember texting my husband not too long after I got to the hotel. He was like, stop texting me.
Right?
So I'm like, yeah. So I did that. You have to do that. You're going to go insane.
You have to recharge yourself. And I always think about when you're on the airplane, they say, put the mask on yourself before you help others. And it's true. You have to, because if you're depleted, you're not going to be any good to anybody else. I mean, Of course, I say that now, but then I look back and I'm like, yeah, I was constantly just exhausted and not taking time for myself. And, it's so important to do that, because it makes you able to take care of the kids better.
And that's also kind of the point, though, is it's like, we even can know what to do, and all of us here are saying, yeah, just take time for yourself, but it's really not that easy, so it's okay to slip up, and it's okay to catch yourself later. Just remind yourself and try and stay on top of it. But we're all here coming to you from a mental health organization, also saying that we're not perfect at it either.
Right.
Because again, a lot of, whether it be instinct or just pride, or still that fear from the outside stigma or from an internal stigma, that we just shouldn't need that break because we're supposed to be able to do this.
Yeah, okay, you're a mom now. This is what you do as a mom. It's no longer about you. And it's that's why we have to take time for ourselves. You have to find it, because we are given so much of our time to our children, to our partners, we have to find, because you hear about those stories of moms who do that and they have no time for themselves, and they're stressed out. They start drinking too much, or they're unhappy. And it's like, no, you have to, talk to your partner, talk to a friend.
Yes.
That you can trust, and take some alone time.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's another good point, is to have somebody, whether it be your partner and your child's father in this case, or just a friend or a family member that has your back.
Yes.
Because it's tough to let somebody else watch your kids, even your husband, their father. It's a big thing that happens after, like right after I have babies. I get it like uber mama bear, and with the infant, he could be doing exactly the same thing I'm doing, but if he's holding the kid and the kid's crying, he's going down. He could be doing like literally nothing different than me, but like, you're causing the baby to cry now.
Right.
Gonna get it. And that's another thing to be watchful of. And it's beautiful that we have this fantastic. Before I had a baby, I was the most passive. I wouldn't hurt a fly. And now, like, I can envision killing someone with my bare hands if you got in the way of my kids. Like,
absolutely.
Yep. I don't want to do it. I hope I don't have to.
Yep.
Stay away from my babies.
Yes.
But having that open dialogue with whoever is your support in helping with your kids. And if you're a single mom out there, finding somebody to lean on, because it is a lot to take on by yourself. And even if somebody doesn't do it as good as you or exactly the same way, your kids are going to be okay. As long as they're safe with that person, they'll be okay for a few hours or overnight. They'll be living and breathing when you get back. It's
Yes. And a lot of times as moms, I know it's it's the constant, like, well, I have to, not just, I guess, kind of be in control, or because you're so used to doing everything that nobody else is going to do it like you know how to. And so you definitely, for all the moms out there, you have to just let people in, let people help you. And you don't have to do it on your own.
Exactly.
true.
And that spans from helping to take care of your kid, helping to take some of the errands and chores off your hands so that you're not doing everything yourself, and also to talking about what's going on and not being afraid to say, you know what, this is tough. I'm having a tough time right now. I love my kids to pieces, but they're being assholes to me.
Right.
They don't mean to. They're not bad for it, but boy, that feels like.
I know it's just your toddler brain doing this right now, but mommy, break from your toddler antics.
And it's a beautiful thing. I mean, it is so beautiful how innocent they are. I mean, it's humbling. And as somebody who also, Matt's crying at the door right now. And as humbling as it is, I think for us who have had bad parental experiences ourselves and a bad upbringing in an unhealthy environment, I like Natasha, I often find myself reminiscing, and my husband as well, actually. And the pressure, I think, to be a good parent can be even more because we know what happens when you aren't a good parent. We know what happens when you misguide your kids or neglect them or emotionally abuse them or, just do whatever it was to cause us that harm. So the pressure is even higher to not mess these kids up. And we have to remember that we are doing our best. Sometimes we can only do our best. We don't know everything. There is no manual. There is no training. And I think having a emotional dialogue with the kids and helping them know that, again, mental health is something that we all experience. And it's okay to not be okay is a great starting point to allowing them to feel. And even if they don't end up talking to you and they don't have that connection, they at least know that it's safe to talk to someone. Because many of us with mental health struggles have experienced suffering in silence, and that's the absolute worst part is feeling that you're alone. So if we can help our kids know they're not alone, whether it's through us or others, we're already doing a huge benefit as a parent.
Right. Absolutely. I agree.
That's so true.
Now, do any of our guests have a question or comment or want to pop in and just share at all? We'd definitely welcome anything, but if not, that's totally fine as well.
Oh, I wanted to say too, to add, my birthday is coming up May 25th. I am a Gemini, proud Gemini. We asked my mother-in-law like months in advance, could she like take off, because she works part-time and watch our little one. So, and we're going out of town for a long weekend, and I am so, because that's one thing too, when you become a parent, you don't, like my husband and I always would travel every year, and then we can't do it. We don't trust everybody with our child, so it's like, we have to, so it just became really hard. And then we had the pandemic, so there was no traveling. Like we're both just like, we cannot wait to get on that plane. I'm going to be sipping my ties from the moment I get on that plane, from the moment it lands. Just enjoy that before we come back and have to be responsible parents. It's like a break for both of us too.
And that is, first of all, happy early birthday. That sounds like an awesome trip and much deserved. And that is another thing about being a mom and a parent in general is we used to not be moms. And the lifestyle change overnight. I mean, I haven't watched more than 15 minutes of any television program without having to pause in the last 4 years. It's just
that's how it is. That's why I stay up a little bit later, because the only time to get that alone time in there and just watch a show. Because my husband was like, "Where are you?" Like I sacrifice some sleep sometimes, but that what I really do. It's okay. I'll get a little less sleep. I'll take some caffeine in the morning or something, but I need to just watch a show or something by myself.
My husband would say the same thing, because I would be tired, and he's like, just go to bed earlier. I'm like, no, by the time I finally get everybody to bed and I have some time for myself, I need that time. And
and that's the thing, is that we can't really have it all.
You gotta sacrifice something.
you gotta lose something to gain something. But it is about balance. It's about juggling all of that. For the days that you need that extra sleep, get get your husband, get your partner, get a babysitter on board, and get those extra hours for the hours that you need to feel like you're your own person again. And watch a TV show without interruptions. Get that done. Just take the time, and you'll be able to make it up. You know, we are, whether we are struggling every day, whether we struggle periodically, whatever it may be, but we are super women doing this. We really are. Again, it's really bizarre that in our society this is just kind of expected, and it's so much and beautiful and amazing. And I think there's just a magical experience in it, but it doesn't mean that it's not hard. And like you were saying, Lacey, just because it is so wonderful and rewarding and beautiful doesn't mean you're not allowed to also be stressed. Doesn't mean you're not allowed to be overwhelmed. You can love your kids to pieces and enjoy every waking moment with them, and it's still a lot.
It is.
The most well-behaved kids, it's still full.
And I will say, is now looking back, because I'm on the other end now, is, you know, to all the moms, don't compare yourself to others. I know that's easier said than done, but you know, there's so much in that. Like, well, even, I mean, when my kids were younger, we didn't, you know, social media hadn't taken off yet, so we didn't have that much pressure. But just in general, you know, you think, oh wow, I should be, you know, doing better, or I should be doing this, and what if that person's doing that? And it's a constant rabbit hole to go down to, because you don't have to be like everybody else. You don't, you know, you're your own person, and you take care of your children, you love your children, and it doesn't matter what somebody else is doing or if they look perfect, because odds are they're probably not perfect.
And just like you said, look perfect. Like social media, we forget that everyone posts all the good moments. No one's really posting like the bad moments, the tough moments. So you just get that one little glimpse into someone's life, you know. So you're right. Don't compare, because even after I gave birth, you would see all these women about their snapback games, what they call it. How they snap back into their post baby body, and how did you do that? But then you realize, and not all cases, some women have great genetics and they bounce back. But then a lot of them are just like photoshopping their photos and videos. But you don't know that. You think that that's until you're putting all this pressure on yourself to get your post baby body back. So like, you really can't go based off of social media.
No, definitely. My youngest is 17. I'm still waiting for my body to start.
And I will say that I think there's such beauty in a mom's body too. I mean, I've had 2 C-sections, so I have my C-section scar, and you know, a lot of people pre-having babies are like, oh, I wouldn't want a C-section, I wouldn't want a scar. I love my scar. That's my babies came from that. It's like a tattoo representing. It's a beautiful thing, not to mention the fact that unless you're seeing me naked, you're not seeing it. So but you know, in the stretch marks, I think they're all beautiful symbols of what we went through to create life. That's what we did. We made life, guys. And that is an unparalleled experience. So I think that it's beautiful to have the remnants in our bodies that show what we've been through, and that we're proud of that. And it's all easier said than done. I'm glad that all of us can be so candid, because the last thing I'd want is to host a webinar and say, "We got it, you can do it." We're trying. We have some insight, but that doesn't make us experts, because none of us are, and that's the beauty. We all get to try in our own fashion and do what works best for us. But I think universally, the message and the takeaway that is something to strive for is to make sure that you don't neglect your own mental health, your own physical health, and even your own independence to a degree. Make sure that you don't lose yourself to your kids, not just for your sake, but again, for your kids' sake. And it'll make you a stronger parent as well, and also partner for if you're co-parenting.
Right. And don't feel guilty when you take time for yourself. I know that's something I've always struggled with, is there's the mom guilt, and oh, I shouldn't be doing that, when you should. You need to take care of yourself.
Yep, absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
I'd like to share a quick last note, and this is actually a social media Instagram post that one of our other advocates, Azza, created for maternal mental health, and it was just beautifully done. Let me see if I can screen share actually. Boop. There we go. So I just thought that this was really fantastic because it talks about some of the things to help take care of as a mom for Maternal Mental Health Day. So self-care and mind-body intervention. So whether you're pregnant or postpartum, engaging in at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity per week. So that's taking walks on a flat surface. That's nothing crazy cardio, that's just moving your body. During the pandemic, specifically lower scores for both anxiety in large effect and depression in small effect than those who didn't. So research showing the power of in your self-care as part of that time you get for yourself, try and get some physical activity in there. It can really make a big difference in your mental health, even just temporarily, as to help kind of calm you down in that moment and bring you down to a nice base level. And social support. Again, reach out to others. Again, we are in this day of social media, and also our organization, all of our advocates, Natasha and Lacey included, are moms, and we're happy to share our stories. We're happy to lend an ear and help you know that you're not alone in what you're going through, and that it's really okay to not be okay. As a mom, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you are, what you are. It doesn't matter if you're the president of the United States, got all the responsibility of children. I don't care. It's okay to not be okay. There's no job too big for you to not have the leniency to take time for yourself and take care of yourself. So talk to others. There are mom support groups on Facebook in your community. Check it out so that you have support around you. And collaborative care, just getting that extra support, because when, again, you neglect your mental health as a mom, or if you're experiencing postpartum depression and you don't seek treatment, it can also lead to other mental illnesses and also physical ailments. Somatic symptoms are no joke, and having physical illnesses present from a neglect of taking care of your mental health is a real thing. And again, that can take you out of commission for being a mom for much longer than if you were to proactively take care of that mental health. Don't mean to scare people, but again, it's very important to make sure we're taking those proactive steps.
Absolutely.
So unless you guys have anything to add, I'll let you add kind of a final note, and then we'll wrap up. I'm just, again, so thankful to be able to share these wonderful stories, and hopefully empower the moms out there to know, again, that it really is okay to not be okay. But make sure that you're taking care of yourself in the same token, because you can do this, even in the most overwhelming moments as a mom, and feel like you have the world on your shoulders and you couldn't dare take a moment off because the world will come crashing down. It won't. It really won't.
Right.
You've got more time and more freedom than you realize.
Right.
Any last points, Lacey or Natasha?
Just keep on being awesome and being, we're a community, and we're all here for each and every one of you. And like I said, as a mom, and I'm kind of on the other side of it now, as my kids are older, so feel free to message me. My information's on the Rethink page, and thanks to you guys for being awesome. And we're all here together for support, and definitely for a listening ear. And you don't have to be perfect. It's, it's just, you got to take care of yourself to take care of others.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it's something I'll share, like my mother-in-law got this from my office. You got this. And she was like, put it on your desk. Just, you ever have a moment where you're stressed out,
yes.
You can see that, and it's very encouraging, and it really is. But just to piggyback off of what Lacey stated, I sometimes get inboxes on my Instagram from other moms just like asking questions or just saying how much they can relate, because I share a lot of my journey on my Instagram through my posts or through stories. So it's definitely, it's okay to not be okay. Most importantly, please find someone you can trust, or people, or
Mhm.
community of people that you can openly and freely talk to. So if you don't feel okay, you got encouragement. And like they stated, it's hard to not feel guilty, but don't feel guilty to take
Yes,
time for yourself. Because as we all were stating, if you're a mess, you can't be there for
yep,
anybody else.
absolutely.
Mhm.
100%. This has been so amazing. I'm so thankful to have this conversation with both of you guys, and thankful for everyone who's attending. Um, and just really happy. I'm going to be just so happy to share this with other moms out there, because I do think that this conversation is so necessary, and our candidness and also our vulnerability of just admitting that even when we know what to do, it's still not easy. We still feel that guilt, but we know to try and overpower it. And
Yes,
that's really what being a mom is about. It's about trying your best. You know, we can't guarantee that we're going to do our best all the time. We don't know what we're doing half the time.
right,
But
right.
so long
Yep.
as we care enough to try, that's where the results are going to come. I used to ask a lot when I was first pregnant with my first, how do I know if I'm going to be a good mom? Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, how do I know?
Mhm.
And most seasoned parents said the fact that you're asking, the fact that you're concerned is an
Right.
indicator that you're going to, because you're being proactive and you're actually considering how your actions impact your kid. And
Yes.
that's the first step. And again, our actions impact our kid when we don't take care of ourselves, and they
Mhm.
impact us, and we deserve to take care of ourselves because we're awesome superpower moms.
Yep.
So, thank you all for watching. Thank you for tuning in. If you'd like more resources, more support, please follow Lacey or Natasha on their Instagrams, on Natasha's blog, and you can also find their information and more information about our other advocates, our advocate program, other resources for mental health for moms, creative resources, a whole bunch of stuff on our website, which is www.rethinkstigma.org. And if you are capable of and have the means to donate to our organization, we greatly appreciate it. If you can't, your mom on a tight budget, believe me, I get it. I never want to ask people to donate outside of their capacity, but if you have some, that line change sitting around and you want to help support this cause, we'd appreciate your support in any capacity, whether that be donation, taking our pledge to rethink the stigma, or even becoming an advocate like Natasha and Lacey. So thank you again, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Mm.
Bye.